During 6 months of a full-scale war in Ukraine, Russia has lost more than 2,000 tanks, 236 aircraft, 206 helicopters and 15 ships and boats, as well as almost 4.5 thousand of armored fighting vehicles and other vehicles, hundreds of drones and artillery systems, and dozens of special equipment. Losses not only significantly weaken the Russian army, but they also burn the pockets of the Russian taxpayers. Forbes publication has calculated that in total, the armed forces of Ukraine have destroyed the enemy's equipment worth more than $16 billion.
The largest loss of the Russian army was the flagship of the Black Sea Fleet with powerful weapons, the missile cruiser Moskva, worth $750 million. Before the sinking of the Moskva missile cruiser, the most expensive loss of the Russian invaders was a large landfill aircraft, Ilyushin Il-76, worth $86 million, which the anti-aircraft warfare shot down in late February in the Kyiv region. The third most expensive loss was the dock landing ship Saratov, worth $75 million. The armed forces of Ukraine attacked the ship when it was in the port of temporarily occupied Berdyansk, while it was delivering military equipment there. From a Forbes publication.
Destroyed military equipment is only a part of the Russia's financial losses. The Kremlin spent about 21 billion rubles a day on the missiles and shells, on the maintenance of the occupation authorities and the repressive operators in the temporarily occupied territories, as well as on salaries and compensation to the military in April. Kalmykia could live for a whole year for this amount, and the Jewish autonomous region of Russia even longer. Almost a quarter of the Russian budget has already been spent on the war in Ukraine. But Moscow does not regret the money which it wastes on the war. Putin has decided to increase the number of Russian military personnel. According to the decree, there should be 137,000 people more of them.
Russia has dramatically increased funding for its military sector. The military-industrial complex has received hundreds of billions of additional money to make up for losses in equipment and weapons, which they suffer at the front line because of the armed forces of Ukraine.
Russia spent 3 times more on the war than on education or healthcare, and 10 times more than on the environment from January to the end of April. Infrastructure projects also had to be abandoned. That is, the Kremlin decided to save 300 billion rubles on the railway, or rather in its absence. The Northern Latitudinal Railway, a project of a railway line in the Arctic zone, has already been frozen due to lack of money. The same happened to the track from Tomsk to the Kuznets base in Taiha. It was supposed to be built for 17 billion rubles.
There is a real shortage of money in Russia. There are not enough resources for these investment projects.
There is no money, but you hold on. This is how the Russian authorities approximately responded to almost 2/3 of those who applied for child support. Putin personally announced the plan to support children from low-income families in early March, and there are 5 million of them in Russia.
I think that we must take new actions, like to establish payments for children from 8 to 16 years old inclusively. I emphasize for all families with low incomes to support them.
Most of those who applied for financial assistance were denied. The reason was so-called a non-compliance with the criteria for receiving benefits, and the wealth of 43% of Russians who have applied for payment was even considered too high. But the real reason was different. To pay financial assistance to the promised 5 million children, the Russian authorities would have to pay from 30 to 60 billion rubles from the state budget. And this is an unbearable amount for the country that spends almost 1 billion rubles every hour on the so-called special operation. But austerity is a losing strategy, economists say. Thus, Russia loses hundreds of thousands of jobs and billions of rubles in taxes. Reported by Diana Kolesnik, Valeria Nikipelova, UATV News.